And I quote, "There is no better preparation for the Ashes than a clean sweep versus India and New Zealand." Joe Root, April 2021. Some things just do not age well. How are you feeling? Well, I'm going to start off. I'm feeling disappointed, disenchanted, defeated. Oof. I feel let down, disconcerted, miffed, irked, frustrated, upset, disillusioned. Ooh. Not even angry anymore, Rich. Just sad. 271 to win. You're 68 for none. You're 124 all out. You're 56 runs for 10 wickets. It's the worst in Australia since 1948. That's how I'm feeling. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel great, Rob. How you doing, mate? Yeah, I've just found that I've got an Australian grandparent, so go Aussies. No, I haven't really. I wish I had. Oh man, what the what the hell was that? 56.
Can you put words to
basically it? 56 all out. No, I don't think you can. Look, it's just frustrating. I think I've already gone past that point of anger, annoyance, all those words you just said, frustration, not even disappointed. It was pathetic in the end, wasn't it? Yep. Love me some England cricket. Love the England cricketers overall, but it was atrocious. Massive changes have to come from this, not just with the squad, potentially coaching, all the rest of it, selection, etc. County game, everything is going to be on the table, or at least it should be. There's so much to get into, Rob. There's so much to talk about. But the game itself, I mean, they look like they had the chance of an earlier flight. I think it's as simple as that, isn't it? Someone popped in and just went, "Hey lad, did you know you can change flights if you want? No charge." And then 56 all out, basically, wasn't it? 56 for the 10 wickets in that second innings. It was a perfect and fitting finale for this tour. England were atrocious. A 3-1 or a 3-0 to Australia would not have given them credit they deserved. I think a 4-0 is about right. I think England just about deserved one draw, didn't they? A couple of things went right, showed a bit of grit, but 4-0 is absolutely bang on. It's a proper stuff.
It is. Parky1712 left us a comment on YouTube that said, "We don't need a sentence to describe England, just one word, shambolic." And I think that is very true. The funny thing is, when you look at the whole series, you go, "Oh yeah, it's 4-0. We avoided the whitewash." We were one wicket away, one ball away from a whitewash.
Well, should we just break down the results, the winning margins for a second? Not break down, I'm just going to go through them. Brisbane, 9 wickets. Adelaide, 275 runs. Melbourne, an innings and 14 runs. Sydney, match drawn. Well done. Hobart, 146 runs.
That's smashed. That's really bad.
That's lying in a gutter smashed, isn't it?
So we find ourselves 19-3 in Australia in the last 5 series, mate, down under.
Can we say 13-0?
Yeah, 13-0 in the other ones, other than that one series in 2010-11. And I think what's frustrating is you take this game in isolation, and this just kind of fulfills the English prophecy of the last few years of what we are. We show glimpses, and then things just turn to rubble pretty quick. Now, we had Australia 12 for 3 here on the first day. It was absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Smith had gone, Khawaja had gone, Warner had gone, Robinson and Broad were bowling superb. Marnus Labuschagne came out on an excellent counter-attack, even though we dropped him again on 0.
Yeah. What would have been the score then? It would have probably just been a few extra, wouldn't it? 3 for
call it
around
20
that
for
same.
4.
Yeah, that's the difference in the Test match, isn't it? Really, obviously the second innings for England when you didn't see what that was going to come, but what position they were in to start the Test and to almost get it 4 down as well. We just don't know how to win a game.
We actually don't, because Travis Head comes out and he man of the series, Travis Head. Yeah. And you know, there needs to be a doff of the cap to the Australian selectors, because everything they've touched turned to gold. They had a question mark at the start of the series. Do you go Khawaja? Do you go Travis Head? Travis Head, 2 centuries in the series. This one, 101 off 113 balls, playing on a completely different pitch to anyone else that had played the game. Very similar to how he went at the Gabba. He was immense. He was positive. I think the thing that sticks out for me is how clear he is about what he is going to do with England bowlers and where they bowl. There's no fluff around it. If it's short, it gets pulled. If it's full, it gets driven. And if it's anything in between, I'm going to defend or leave. And it's just really clear. And I just really appreciate how he goes about playing his cricket. It's just excellent cricket from an excellent man playing an excellent series, who's now solidified himself as the number 5 for Australia.
Absolutely, averaging just shy of 60 for the series, wasn't it? 357 runs, top scorer in the series. Rightly man of the series as well, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He got that accolade. He's played a lot of county cricket last couple of years, last 2 or 3 years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Down at Sussex, I believe. This is what happens when you have a bit of preparation, you've got some experience about who you're facing. There's some players in this England setup that haven't been to Australia, certainly haven't played at a good standard in Australia, and certainly haven't come across this attack in Australia or probably anywhere, really. When are we going to learn? When are we going to learn? We need to start getting these players in front of these players and in these conditions, whether it be India or whether it be Australia. We have to get these players in these conditions before we go ahead and have a full-on test series, a 5-match test series, which that's something I think needs talking about as well. Should England get a 5-match test series in Australia next time round? When 2010-11 was the last time we actually was competitive in Australia.
Yeah.
There is an argument to say this should only be a 3-match test series.
You can't do it, mate. You can't do it. You can't take. I saw somewhere the other day, actually, the complete opposite.
Justify
Someone posted on the BBC saying it should be a 6 Test match series. Because there's so much money involved in it. I'm just like,
well, okay,
that's true, but that's everything that's wrong with sport. When you start doing that, the penny pinch it, and they're like, "Oh, I'll take a bit of this. Oh, this is good. I'm going to put more water on that tree and grow it more."
No. I obviously, I'm saying it half in jest. I would hate to think that we'll ever get relegated to that status, but we have done nothing over the last few series. With 13-0, isn't it, in the last 3 series down under? We have done nothing to justify having this headline, making series. This isn't elite cricket. This isn't great sport. It's one-sided nonsense, really, at the moment, isn't it? Down under 18 months' time, Rob, we've got Australia in England. And I don't want to get, zigzag too far with this conversation, but we need to make sure that we've got some things in place because yes, we can say preparation and all those other things and playing in Australia against this attack is difficult. But just because it's in England doesn't mean this Australian team won't absolutely hand this English setup an absolute spanking in England. And I don't know what will happen if that does occur. Maybe if they don't make enough sufficient changes in the setup and all the rest of it, then we probably will be seeing an absolute spanking in England. But that's something to look ahead to. We don't want to focus everything towards the next Ashes. Now we've just finished an Ashes, but it's certainly worth considering.
It is. So the Aussies did very well, 303. And I think this is what England lack. Australia still managed to score 300 and win a test match when David Warner and Steve Smith both got a pair. For the first time ever in Test history that those two playing together have got a pair. They still managed to score 300. Travis Head, number 5, scores 100. Cameron Green was superb for his 74. I like his poise and patience that he had at the crease here. I thought Mark Wood was exceptional, and he was exceptional throughout the whole series, particularly in the second innings here. And it was good to see him get some rewards. But this was the first time I really saw Cameron Green show some assurance against facing Mark Wood, because I've always thought Mark Wood's going to have his number just because of the pace. I haven't quite seen Cameron Green have a good enough technique. It always looks really hurried. Who wouldn't at 145k? But here, I thought he was exceptional, and 300. But we talk about this England team when we've talked about Sibley doesn't score quick enough, Burns doesn't score quick enough, Hamid doesn't score quick enough. You get yourself in a hole. Australia were bowled out in 75 overs. They scored at 4 and over, 303 on the board. You don't look at it and go, oh, well, they're bowled out for 150 because they scored at 2 and over. That's not part of the conversation. They were positive in the right areas and at the right parts of the game to be able to score 375 overs against a bowling attack that you've got to say with, Broad and Robinson at the top. Robinson suffered a side strain, I think, in this first inning, so only bowled his 8 overs or back spasms. That's really good. That's really good, positive cricket, and just not being there. How many times does a team bat 150 overs? And what are you trying to do if you bat 150 overs, England? Are you trying to score 300? Are you trying to score 350? Like, you can score 300 in one rotation of the ball before the new ball becomes available. It just mindset moments.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of credit when we are talking about England and we are trying to pick some positives out. We have to look at the bowling attack to say that the bowling hasn't been that bad. Dropped catches have been a serious issue. Yes. Selection have been a big issue. Getting the right bowlers on the right surfaces at the right times. Potentially when Ruti's using the bowlers in which situation. So we have to give credit to the bowlers. But this test match, 303, 75 overs, after getting them 3 for 12? 3 for 12 and Labuschagne going, missing that opportunity. It could have been 4 for not many more. The wheels then fell off though, didn't it? You lost control. Yeah. An attack with Broad, Robinson, Wood and Woke should not lose control, should not be going at 4 5s and over. Yeah. And as well as Mark Wood did bowl in this game, he was going for over 615 off his 8 overs.
Yeah.
18 overs, sorry. 8, Jesus. That would have been worse.
Yeah, that's fair. His first spell was pretty ropey. Yeah. Same with Chris Woke. Chris Wokes was short or half volleys, mate.
We love you, Chris. We love you, Chris. But I honestly don't want to see him go to Australia again. I want to see Chris Wokes play in England and wherever else, but I don't want to see him go to Australia again. Yeah. As much as we absolutely adore this guy as a cricketer. But you just cannot afford that, though. This test match it was decided on this first day, wasn't it? You get them 3 down. This is the opportunity, England. This is what you've been waiting for. We finally get there. We've got all these excuses of lack of preparation. We get the draw in the 4th test and we win in the 5th. Look, see, if we only would have had more preparation and more time out there, look at what we could achieve. Look at that. It's 1-0 in the last 2 test matches. We could dress it up however we wanted. And we had that opportunity. And as soon as we had that opportunity, we missed Labuschagne. And then suddenly you've got blokes going along at strike rates of 83 for Labuschagne, 90 nearly for Travis Head, 67, 68 for Cam Green. It's ridiculous.
12 runs off 10 overs, mate. 12 runs off 10 overs. Ridiculous. That means we scored the other 290 runs off 65 overs. They're going at almost 5s.
Yeah, 4 and over for the innings. And like you said, probably 5s after that initial spell. So that isn't good enough. And this is frustrating, isn't it? The bowling has been so well to let it down. Yeah. When you have that point, you have the moment where you've got that in your sights, you're ready to kill. And it's just, we just screwed it up. We just threw it away. And then the rest of the test match is history. But
then we had a bat, mate, and we did what we've done. I put a thing out on Twitter, Leading Edge Pod, if you want to go and follow us. We've been bowled out 19 times for less than 200 in the last 3 years. From this date, going back 3 years, no team is close to us. 2021, we got bowled out for less than 200 10 times, which is the worst ever in world cricket for a team. We're shambolic with the bat, and we were pretty shambolic here, starting with Rory Burns getting run out.
I need to say something about this. I don't make many accurate predictions, but if you remember a prediction for this test match, I said Rory Burns will be out second over the innings.
Did you?
I did. I'm 99.9% sure of this. Obviously, I did not predict a run out. I assumed he was going to nick off or whatever. But the returning Rory Burns, 0. He got himself 26 in the second innings, but I'd just like to point out that's an average of 13 for the test match. He came into this test averaging 12.74 in the series. Yeah. So we got exactly what we expected off Rory Burns. So I'm so pleased he was brought back in the team ahead of, you had to drop him. He's completely had it. Hasib Hamid, who averaged 10, 3 or 2.74-ish less than what Rory Burns did. So we were that sure we had to bring Burns back in for Hamid. Obviously Hamid's, that's another conversation. We'll get to that in a bit. But come on now, Rory Burns did not justify being selected back into this team.
No, he definitely didn't. And we were bailed out of this innings, mate, to be honest. We found ourselves 4 for 81. We found ourselves 6 for 110. And Mark Wood hit some runs down the order. Chris Wokes scored at a 75 strike rate, scored 36. Sam Billings looked really nice. 39 on debut. That was positive, good intent cricket.
Yeah.
We just failed further up the order, mate. Again.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really pleased with Billings. I didn't know how he would come in, but he was like a breath of fresh air, wasn't he? All the interviews building up to this test match, he sounded like he had a difference about him compared to the war-weary players that were already in the squad for 4 test matches. He played really well. He was fluent, wasn't he? He was playing at a good rate. It was a little bit of a compulsive sort of, I've been playing white ball shot. So it was disappointing. And I really hoped in the second innings he'd go on and put a score down to see if he could be an option going forward. Again, conversation for another day. Don't think he quite grabbed the opportunity as much as he would have wanted to, but he certainly did look like he belonged in this first innings.
He looked like he belonged on the pitch, I thought, mate.
The
absolutely. way he carried himself as the wicket keeper, the voice, the energy of the team. I thought he gave us that whereas Josh Buttler, I think, was just burning out and flat and going, mate, I'm just over this. Whereas Billings is like new, fresh, and he's talking to the fielders. He's making them work hard. He was making sure people were doing the basics, backing up. You could see him doing these things. And your wicket-keeper needs to be that. He needs to be the heartbeat of the team on that field. And he gave us that, which is a positive.
Yeah. He's put himself in a position where he should get an opportunity at some point down the road. You would imagine that he'll be you should tour the West Indies, because obviously there's no other red ball cricket before then for England. So what are we judging it off? It's not like we've got half a county summer. So you'd think he'd be able to establish himself. Potentially, this is an opportunity, isn't it, to go in a completely different direction with wicket keepers. Perhaps we do go Stokes and Billings as our two wicket keepers. And Johnny Bairstow, God love him, if he's going to play, bat him at 6, because I'm looking at this team now, and with all due respect to Ollie Pope, he is not an England Test batsman at the moment. And I'm not sure when he will be again. He's a very talented player, but that dismissal in the first innings, this obsession with batting outside your off stump and fiddling around at balls at fifth or sixth stump, I don't understand it. Someone please explain to me the benefit of doing that. I understand trying to get onto off stump to see your line, but how it's being executed by people like Pope, I've not seen someone do it and do it brilliantly when you're getting outside that off stump, and it just seems baffling. His dismissal in the second innings as well, without getting too far ahead, he's got that far outside. He's got bowled around his legs.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. Now, it's great to identify these young players as the future, the talent, but at some point you have to just say, okay, it's not working at the moment. We're not writing them off. Hamid, perhaps Pope, others, but just let them go away. Let them go back into county cricket and go and find their games, develop, mature, and then bring them back in. Maybe give them some Lions cricket if we ever give people Lions cricket. Build them back up to the point where when they come back in the team, they are banging the door down, kicking the door down, rather than like in this series, Rory Burns. Oh, well, I suppose you better play Rory. Yeah. No one else is in.
I think the thing with batting on off, it makes leaving the ball, which we're not doing, very, very easy, because you know where your stumps are, and you don't need to be playing the 4th, 5th stump line. But the execution of that is absolutely bonkers. And it was a six stump line that he was nicking off to, just playing a defensive push. It's completely irrational. And Pope's partially responsible for this. He's the guy out on the pitch with the bat. But what's going on with the batting coach? The batting coach can only do so much, but surely with the work around doing that is, okay, if you're batting in this position because we feel that's what's better for you, is you then go leave these balls and these become your scoring areas. This is how you're playing. I'm not quite.
Oh, mate, the coaching setup needs a complete. No, the coaching setup needs a complete review, doesn't it? You cannot go into the next series without some changes in this coaching setup. I'm not saying that these guys aren't coaches of great pedigree, great experience, and all the rest of it, Graham Thorpe and etc. But who has improved in this England setup on this tour? You could argue maybe Zach Crawley's improved, or is he just playing the same way and he did well and he took an opportunity? But nobody improves in this setup with the bat. Not one player over this series has improved as this tour's gone on. They've been away for a long time. That means a lot of nets, a lot of throwdowns, a lot of practice. Nobody technically or success rate, scoring runs, has improved. So there has to be an issue there. There has to be a change there. Hasib Hamid has gone there, and he has gone from being someone that looked okay at the end of the summer to he might have an opportunity. Yes, we've got question marks. He's probably been picked too early, and it's unfortunate of him in a way that when he has come back in the team, it's a winter of Australia rather than a couple of more pleasant overseas tours. Let's put it that way. But again, who's looked after him? Who's helped him? Because he's gone into a shell. He's completely lost the plot with his technique over the series. I've got no doubt next summer he'll come back and do well. But they've completely ruined him this winter. And it's going to take a bit of a job, isn't it, when he gets back to Notts, to build him back up. And it's not just the coaching, it's also the mental side of things as well. It's a big job. And this setup just seems to have completely neglected any responsibility or any whatever the term might be, to improve players and make sure this, improve them mentally as well as technically.
So they're very valid points, mate, and you can't argue with them. Can we look at it from the point of view that we go, this is a world-class Australian bowling unit. They are exceptional. Yeah. Pat Cummins is best bowler in the world. Mitchell Starc swinging it, sometimes swinging it Shane Warne. Scotty Boland coming in and doing what he's done is exceptional, and he's got every county team in the country knocking down his door going, hey, mate, do you want to come and play next year? And surely got himself as a shoe-in as Josh Hazelwood's backup, maybe even a starter over in England in 18 months. Can we look at it and go, this Australian bowling attack is world-class, and our batsmen are middle average test match cricketers, maybe not even that yet, minus Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the times, mate, there is a nuance, isn't there? Both things can be true. This is a very brittle England batting lineup, and it's come against probably the best bowling lineup in the world.
Yeah,
in very, very familiar conditions and very difficult batting conditions for in Australia. So absolutely, they're both true. Pat Cummins, he's leading wicket taker, isn't he, in 3 consecutive series? I think I've got it somewhere. What he's got,
three
21
consecutive
wickets.
Series.
Yeah, 2019, 29 wickets, 2017, 18, 23 wickets, and 21 in this series. He has taken to captaincy incredibly. One of the questions that we look at is the whole Joe Root, and we just think there's only Stokes, but perhaps we can open it up into bowlers as well. I don't know who that person might be, but I think Australia has shown, and Pat Cummins has shown more importantly, that it doesn't have to be a batsman to be a captain in an international side. So I just think that it's a nice thing.
It's a good kind of segue from this point of the innings. We're halfway through the game. I've got a point here going, Joe Root, question mark. He is due to miss the IPL. He doesn't play IPL very often, but he's excluded himself from it for test. Also has Ben Stokes. What are our alternatives to Joe Root? And I made a list and I said Ben Stokes, who was also turned around and said, I'm not going to play IPL. Right. And then it's quite hard when you've got a team
your
where
list?
you're not sure what your best 11 is. And also, because of the rest and rotation policy, how does that work? And I made a list here and I said Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, Chris Wokes, David Malan, Johnny Bairstow. They're the only people I could put some sort of dial on and go, these people will play Test cricket.
But even some of those names, though, they're not guaranteed to play. If Bairstow and Malan struggle in the first couple of tests, assuming they both play, which I imagine they should be at 3 and 6 in the West Indies when that gets underway, if they don't score in those first couple of tests, there's a good chance they won't be in the third test.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done that well. Johnny Bairstow, yes, he did very, very well in isolation. He got that 100, the only 100 an England batsman hit in this series. 10 innings, Rob, 1 century. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The options are very, very small. When we last spoke about this, I was saying I think the right thing to do is if Joe Root wants to carry on, I think you have to let him. You can't sack him as captain. He's done too much. He's done too well. But I would rather Joe Root wasn't captain. And again, it's that whole conversation like we speak about openers and other positions. The correct decision, potentially, forgetting about anything else, is Joe Root, probably for the betterment of Joe Root and this team going forward, is that he steps down as captain and somebody else takes it on. Yeah. The problem, again, we use the example as an opener. Rory Burns doesn't play, blah, blah, blah. The problem is who comes in? Who is the replacement? You've just pointed it out very clearly. Once we go past Ben Stokes, then I'm struggling. Yeah. Potentially, why not give it Broad or Anderson?
Yeah.
Why not? For a year or so until the next player has come in. We don't know who might come into this team or who is already in the team, who develops themselves into the next senior player. But at the moment, if Root wants to continue, who will? If he wants to step down, Stokes, Broad, Anderson. That's all I can see. There's not a batsman I'd want to give it to. Wokes, I don't think will play enough, perhaps he will. I don't know. It could be a question. But again, what's their CVs for captaincy? Any of those blokes? The other thing, Ben Stokes as well, is really important. It's not just a case of, well, if Root steps down, Stokes get it. Stokes has just took a hell of a long time out of the game due to mental health issues, trying to get himself in a good position. He's had some real serious personal issues around injury, which is people really don't focus enough on the impact of injury on players. Yeah, it's psychologically, it's really difficult when you're away from a setup or you're recovering or you think you might not be able to get back to where you were. You think your career's over. It's a real strain. It's a real stress and not enough gets said about it. So all those things combined really put Ben Stokes back, didn't it? We don't know every ins and out of it, but we know that he had to take time out to look after himself. Are we going to say that the best thing for this team and best thing for Ben Stokes is to give him the captaincy now?
It's a fair question, and it's probably a question that people aren't asking. To be fair, because whenever you start talking about mental health and load on people, you don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes. And also it's very hard. It still can be a hard thing to talk about and go, is that guy mentally ready to do it? Because you're asking questions of their mentality, which is sometimes a little harsh on people. So it is a question that needs to be asked. And it's a question for Ben, I think, to sit down with his family and go, do you want to do this, mate? Like what, and I always look at life these days going, what does happy look like? What makes everything work? What makes everything tick? Because if the balance goes, then things become hard for anyone in any walk of life, work, life, playing social cricket, whatever. Yeah. And there's three things to think about. There's probably more, but is he a leader? Are people going to follow him on the pitch? Yes or no? What is his skill set in terms of soft skills? Because we see different approaches in world cricket these days. You've got Justin Langer, who's hardcore. I'm probably going to shout at you, call you every name under the sun, and we're going to be hard as nails. Who he is to have softened up a little bit. But then you've got the Ashley Giles, Chris Silverwood. Everyone's nice, brilliant soft skills, good people, good people going around. Joe Root, bloody good person, proud to have him as your captain. What do England want out of the captain? Is it someone that's just, you know what, the best person that we've got and we're proud to have him as our leader? Or do we want to go down a different route? And I'm not saying Ben Stokes is any of these, but it kind of fills into the coaching roles that's possibly going to be available as well. It's what type of person do you want? And I'm not sure England know exactly what they want. And there's trade-offs to anything in life.
I think just jumping in, I think the culture needs to be set by the setup, first and foremost. Who is making the decision on who's going to be coach? Who's going to be making the decision on the selection process? Because I don't want to spend too long on it. There is no way in the world Chris Silverwood can continue in this role as a selector, the selector, with the support of James Taylor, Mo Bobbert, and whoever else it was. There was only 2 or 3 people supporting him, and he was making all the decisions. We thought, okay, it's a fresh approach at the time. Let's see how it works. That's a hell of a lot of work for him. How's he going to get around the county games? Blah blah blah. And it's proven it can't be the right setup. And he's got authority. So that setup, we need to have that decision of who's setting the agenda, who's setting the culture of what that whole setup will be. Then the coach is decided. And again, that coach has to feed into that culture, but also he has to be on the right page with it as well. And then the captain comes along as well. It's that whole setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this conversation with captain is going to be null and void because I think Joe Root will continue. I don't know what will happen with the West Indies tour, whether he'll go there. I think he'll want to go out to West Indies. And then I think he'll be quite happy to get through this English summer with a bit of rest, bit of rotation as is the want for this England setup. And then I think the question will genuinely come at the end of this English summer before you start thinking about overseas tours again and whatever competitions are up ahead. And I can't even think at the moment where they're going next winter. But that's when I think the question will come back up. And I hope by that point, Ben Stokes has had a brilliantly successful summer. He's had a brilliantly successful time in his personal life and everything's absolutely fine. And he's ready, if required, to take on that role, because I'm certain a proud Englishman, a proud cricketer that Ben Stokes is, he'll want that captaincy at some point in his life. Absolutely will want it. So I think that's probably where it'll go. I think the more important questions potentially will be coach's responsibilities, selector's responsibilities. And how many people are around that. And also with the coach, not just the coaching setup, the people around him. We need a coaching setup that are going to start improving some of these players, because we are not in that perfect scenario where a player comes perfectly finished and packaged up and just gets thrown to the England setup and go on, carry on. We're just here to give you a drink and have a chat or do your throwdowns. We need coaches that will improve these players because they are not right. They're not ready for Test cricket, clearly. So we can't just assume they're going to just play well as soon as when they get in the Test cricket. We need improvers for coaches.
Yeah, it feels like we need to just roll back a bit and have brave coaches who aren't, who can coach. It's
interventions.
Yes, the mindset thing is hugely important, getting a player ready. But I don't see players going on the pitch that's ready. I see players that are a little bit scrambled at the moment, and that's a big problem.
Did you see what Root said about the players that are coming into the Test side? They're coming in spite of county cricket, not because of county cricket at the moment. That's not very helpful, I don't think, from Joe Root in the bigger conversation. Obviously, there needs to be changes at county cricket, but it just shows you what, even internally, these players don't ever say anything negative, do they?
No.
But we've had that come out recently. We've had the whole thing with Ollie Robinson, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit, where the coach has come out and questioned his fitness. Suddenly, there's some cracks in this setup, isn't there? I don't know if people are trying to position themselves to be on the right side of arguments when it all shakes out in a little while, but don't usually hear that with England.
You don't. The Robinson one is very valid because Australia went and batted next, scored 155. Mark Wood, brilliant, fast, aggressive, 6 for 37. Got his reward for a lot of hard work this series. I think every England fan has, already like him, but warm to him more for the passion and effort that he's putting. I know the Aussies have. They absolutely love him. They think he's worth his weight in gold to this England team. Ollie Robinson, none for 23 off 11 overs, generally bowling a touch below 130. And you're right, just what you're saying. John Lewis has come out and criticised his fitness and said he needs to be fitter. I've also seen people on Twitter talking about it, saying he doesn't look like he's fit and ready to play Test match cricket. And it is a step up playing Test match cricket. You're playing 5 intense days as opposed to probably 3.5 days of county championship cricket. Much more mental strain going into that. But I think what we saw from the first couple of Test matches was he probably wasn't fit for the third Test match. He looked absolutely shattered. So John Lewis has come out and said, hey, look, you're not at the peak level of fitness that you want to do. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Fitness coach coming out, calling someone out verbally, globally, Twitterizing them, that's a new term, and just going, hey, you need to be fitter, mate.
I'm not a big fan of it. The only way I'll give this a pass, because I've not been a big fan of the way England have treated players over the years. I've spoken enough about Samit Patel to fill a podcast just about Samit Patel. But I hate the way that they've treated these people. There are different people with different body shapes and styles and all the rest of it. And it's their fitness. It's the old thing. Ollie Robinson, just taking him on his own for a second, he doesn't need to look chiseled and perfectly athletic if he can get through his work. If he can't, that's a completely different thing altogether. It's not about physique, it's about fitness, isn't it? And is he fit to bowl day in, day out, spell in, spell out over a long series? At the moment, no. And again, we can look back to county cricket for that. And, I don't want to pick on him and say, he had a few questions in his past. No. Let's not look at that. Let's just say he's come into the setup and he clearly, this is my take on it anyway, he didn't realise what it took to be a successful England bowler. He's now in a setup with Broad and Anderson. If in the future he doesn't know, then there's something wrong. He had the summer, so I'm backtracking a little bit as I say this, Rob, because he has spent time in the summer with these players, hasn't he? So maybe he should have known. Maybe they will have been coaching him to say what he needed to do. It's such a difficult one. We don't know behind the scenes, but I'm not comfortable with John Lewis, who's the bowling coach, ex-England bowler, John Lewis, coming out and publicly shaming Ollie Robinson, unless they've been on at him ever since he came in the setup and the penny has not dropped and he is still not doing what he should be. He's not hitting the markers of fitness that he should be. And if that is the case, then you do, I suppose, get to that point where you're going, well, what else do we do?
He's been around a long time, eh? It's a long time without being a long time, but he's been around the setup for the whole duration of the summer and then had the winter, partial winter to get ready for Australia.
That's what made me back up.
Everyone's got natural level of fitness that are completely different. I did read something that he wasn't a fast bowler until he was a little bit older, so he might not have the durability of a pace bowler that's someone that's got a lot more miles in the legs. But I look at it and go, he wasn't quite 100% fitness, but you've no idea what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if he's had a winter with injuries or calf strains or back problems. It could be anything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just very nervous and uncomfortable with stuff like that happening in public. And I'm not sure it benefited anybody particularly. If you're not getting through to a player in the setup, then you've got to ask yourself why. Why can't you get through to that player as a coach or whatever your position might be within the setup? Why do you then have to go publicly? I think that's a failure of the coaching setup to not be able to deal with that or get through to him. get Brody on his case, get Anderson on his case, get Woody on his case, take different approaches, different people doing different things. Even in club cricket, you can have people going, right, you be a hard ass on him and you be his mate. There's ways of getting through to people, isn't it? You can try different approaches.
Yeah.
So I'm very uncomfortable with it. And England do not have a track record with dealing with these things well at all. And I see another problem down the road with this. They like to have their players that they, with the whole Owen Morgan thing with Alex Hales. We've had the fitness thing with Samit Patel. Joe Clark, someone that's played very well in Big Bash, the Notts ex-Worcester player. I feel like he's another one that's probably got a bit of a black mark against his name still. We seem to have these vendettas with individuals within the England setup, and we are not good enough as a cricket nation at the minute to write off talented cricketers, no matter what age they are or what they can offer and in what format. So we need to be very careful that Ollie Robinson doesn't become somebody else, because if Broad and Anderson go soon, Joffrey's injured a lot of the time at the minute, and please, whatever we all need to do to get him fit and firing for the next 5 or 10 years or whatever it might be, let's all do that. But when you get past that, we are then suddenly Wokes, Ollie Robinson, Saki Mahmood, Craig Overton. We don't have a lot of proven performers here.
Yeah.
So we need Ollie Robinson has come into Test cricket and done pretty well. 11 wickets at 25 in this series. He's done well again. Maybe not as many wickets as he'd liked in four matches. We need to have a go. I just want to quickly say about Mark Wood as well, because obviously this is how we started it. 17 wickets. I'm so pleased he got that 6 wickets, because that's exactly what he deserves. You know that my criticism of him has always been he doesn't take enough wickets. I will never question his character, his effort, his all those other things, those things you need in a squad player, in a fast bowler. He's proven his fitness, hasn't he, now? I think to himself as much as anything else, he can play Test matches back-to-back in tough series and tough conditions. So I'm so pleased that he's done that and he's established himself, because we don't know what Joffrey is going to be able to give us in the future, or in the near future, should I say. So we need a fast bowler, because I don't know who else is there.
I don't know who else is there. We're running out of
we're running out of everything.
We're running out of conveyor belt, and I guess this is kind of where we started with the intro. England 271 to win, 68 for none. Zach Crawley looking like $1 million. Rory Burns has got his balance back and his timing back. 68 for none. Rich,
yeah.
Did you have little feelings going? 271's on it. I fancy us. Like we've got a good chance. I'm going to be honest. I sat there and went, we're going to win this, and I don't know what to say on the podcast if we win it.
You know me, Rob. We were going to win this Test match, weren't we?
Optimistic.
I can't help it. As soon as I see England do a little bit of something, I'm like, ooh, we're back. Here we go. So yeah, Crawley. It was good to see him. Just going all right. I mean, at this point, I wasn't seeing this. I woke up to the message, or I checked quick info, and it was 50 for none. It's like, yep, getting up in a minute, bit of breakfast, watch England knock off Australia. No problem. I must have dozed, and then I woke up again. It was like 60 or whatever it is for one, and then it was like, oh, okay, maybe not so good, maybe not. But yes, still, I still thought that we might have something about us. But then it was a procession, wasn't it? And it got to that point, didn't it, after a couple of wickets went, where it just seemed like everyone had just gone, I've had enough now. Let's go home. It's one of those end of season games when you think you're on tour, when you're having a bad season in club cricket, and you just want to get back to your town or wherever your club and just go and have a few beers. So let's get the season done.
Did we deserve better though? Like, before I get to that, I'm going to give props to Cameron Green, who 3 wickets before the break absolutely changed contest. Incredible player. But were you disappointed with the method of dismissal of the last series? Because what do you want to see as an England cricket fan? You're watching England, you're 3-0 down last series. You want to see a bit of fight. You want to see a bit of dog. And just Rory Burns getting bowled round his legs first ball of the Ashes, and Ollie Robinson getting bowled standing on square legs toes trying to cut a Yorker. Like the bookends of probably 18 days worth of nightmares.
Yeah, Ollie Robinson did not want to be anywhere near that square, did he? I think let's put it there at the end. He's walked across. He's got somehow cleaned up with a full tie. He's just all over the shop. That should have been spacked out the ground. There's some shocking dismissals in there, wasn't there? I mean, Ollie Pope's bowled around his legs all over the place. Didn't look like he belonged anywhere near a cricket field, let alone an international one. And that's not to say Ollie Pope won't come back as a good cricketer at some point in the future. Sam Billings, great first innings, but then it was the flick up, wasn't it? The little flick. flipped to mid-on. One of the worst dismissals I saw, apart from a few bold dismissals, but how many has he even made? The point where it sort of turned wrong for him, he just did that little flick up to mid-on. This is the same. Sam Billings is no different. Absolutely shocking dismissal, this one. So we don't want to go too much on him because it's his first test match, but come on, what are you thinking? That's the sort of shot I play in club cricket. You can't play that shot. You've got to be better than that. All the way through the order, it was pretty atrocious, wasn't it? Mark Wood tried to have a bit of fun down the order. He's the only one that seems to have a bit of backbone, really, in this test match or towards the end of this test match. I mean, what can you say? Got to give Cam Green some credit as well, actually. You've just said it there again, and I just want to come back on that as well. In our preview, I didn't know much about Cam Green at all. I couldn't have picked him in a lineup. It could have been him and his mum, and I still wouldn't have known which one Cam Green was. So the fact that he has come in as a young guy, what is he, 22 or something?
23.
Suddenly, 23, he has given Australia something they haven't had for a long time. They always had the wicketkeeper batsman all-rounder and then the 4 bowlers that were just good enough to sort everything out. Yep. Australia not only blessed with a battery of bowlers, Nathan Lyon and a group of seamers, whoever that 3 is you want to play, but they now have an international quality all-rounder that can bat at 6 and contribute. Got himself a good number of runs in this series, didn't he? Let's have a look. 228 runs at an average of 32 at a good rate, 56. And then he's also chipped in with 13 wickets at 15.76. Hugely overlooked performer for Australia in this series. He looks a cricketer. He's got the build. He's big guy, isn't he? He comes running in. He's got a lovely run-up, lovely delivery, very strong in his action. And as a batsman, he looks like he's going to be better and better as he goes forward. It really annoys me that Australia have found this cricketer. We were looking for generations for Ben Stokes, it felt like. Flintoff, for all he's good, he did. Flintoff was a good player. He was a match winner, but he wasn't a consistently good player like Ben Stokes is. They've just rocked up and suddenly they've got the all-rounder we've always wanted.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Not with their bowlers as well.
Yeah, the credit needs to go to their, I think, the bowling unit. If you look at this, Josh Hazlewood got injured in the first test match. He averaged 24 with the ball. Nessa came in and averaged 30. Richardson came in and averaged 24. Scott Boland came in, 18 wickets at 9, which is just a game fault. Steve Smith, 1 wicket at 10. Cameron Green, 13 at 15. Pat Cummins, 21 at 18. Nathan Lyon, who had a poor first test, 21 wickets at 18. Mitchell Stark, who hasn't swung a ball according to Shane Warne, 19 wickets at 25, the week length. That's an incredible level of consistency. And you can see the pitches in Australia weren't stereotypical Australian 600-run pitches. If England had made selection right, had caught chances, you wouldn't have been 3-0 down after 3 test matches. The Aussies just outperformed England throughout. They batted hard in the first 3 test matches, really ground out scores. David Warner in the first test epitomised that with his, I think he got 94, 96. Just awful innings, but batted amazing to be able to bat a long period of time, set the team up for success. And the battery of bowlers and the slip catches, other than the 5th test, which was a bit shambolic, have been world class. They caught everything for 3 test matches, meaningful moments in games. They were winning them, mate.
Yeah. I mean, you can't give enough praise to this Australian setup. The days when the likes of Warner and Smith didn't perform, others did. Travis Head, not the leading light in Australian cricket, has gone and become the man of the series for this one and scored the most runs in the series for Australia. Usman Khawaja, out in the wilderness, comes back in and hits 2 centuries. We can't even dream of a player hitting a century in a game at the moment, let alone two in a game. Everything that they did turned to gold, didn't it? Not much went wrong at all. It was lovely to see David Warner get a pair in this test match. Delighted. He's a pantomime villain, isn't he? I like David Warner. I've got a lot of respect for him as a player, but it's still fun to see him get a pair. That's what the Ashes is all about.
It is.
Just 1 to 11, no matter what that 11 is, they perform. Just a slight correction, Rob. 16 wickets for Nathan Lyon at 23.5. So I think you might have reread Cummings when you said his. So before anyone jumps on Rob for that, I just wanted to get the correction in there, you plonker, before anyone calls you a plonker again.
Plonker here.
Go on, mate. Yeah, go for it.
A fine performance. One thing I want to call out is, and it's been spoken about before, it's the rotation of this England team, the rest and rotation. Now, there's good and bad to rest and rotation when you're in bubbles. There's the COVID era. It's very difficult for players. And this England team rightly have prioritised players' mental health and physical health over results.
Yep.
That all gets forgotten, and I'm not saying it should, but it gets forgotten when you go to Australia, you lose 4-0, you lose to India, you lose to New Zealand, how you probably even lost in the back garden to the hotel staff. We got it wrong. Rest and rotation, we got it right, but we got it wrong with selection, with the rotation that we used. We played Jack Leach at the Gabba. He got smashed out of the series. We didn't play Broad. We didn't play Anderson. We started things wrongly. We picked wrongly throughout. Who's responsible for that? Is that Joe Root? Is that Joe Root going, this is the team I want to take the pitch at the Gabba? Or is it Chris Silverwood with influence people coming in? Who's the guy? Who's the guy that's responsible for poor decision making throughout the series? Is where we're going. There's been a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you've got to point to Silverwood because he is the man that makes the decisions. He is the ultimate, the number one supremo head honcho and all those things. Sorry about that. So he's ultimately responsible. He's going to be fed into a lot by the likes of Graham Thorpe, John Lewis, etc. Everybody else in that coaching setup, whoever those people may be. Can't think of the whole setup off the top of my head. Don't really want to at the moment, so I'm not that impressed by him. So that has to be there. But there is no way in the world Joe Root is not having conversations by saying, "I would like him. I would like him. I would prefer to have him." So everybody, as with a win, everyone should get a level of credit. Great decision to pick him on this pitch. We won the test match. Well done. Let's all pat ourselves on the back. Same with defeat. Everybody needs to take a portion of that blame, but Chris Silverwood ultimately is his responsibility. He's like the CEO, isn't he? The MD, whatever you want to call it. It's ultimately up to him. Just want to quickly pick up what you're talking about the whole rest and rotation and the mental health. In England, it's something we're probably able to do much easier because when you are resting somebody, especially if it's for those reasons, when you're getting them out of the bubble and sending them home, that's what you're doing. In Australia, if you're resting someone for a test match, it's because you've made a decision you'd rather someone play or somebody's not fit. There isn't really much you can do in this series to kind of look after the mental well-being because they're stuck in a bubble. It's simple as that. You've got people in Australia, left, right and centre, going to pubs and restaurants and whatever now. I know there are still restrictions in place in some places, but it's more free, isn't it? You've got people coming into cricket stadiums to watch cricket. I don't think these England players would have been able to go and do anything as free as watch a game of cricket, particularly on this tour. So it's really difficult. I mean, if we were deadly serious about the well-being of these players, maybe it would have been sensible. I'm not saying it would have been exactly desirable, but maybe it would have been sensible to actually have had some replacements. To actually say we're gonna give these guys are going to be here for the first 3 tests, and as much as they might want to stay for the whole series, that's all we're going to do. We're going to bring some more people in. Again, I'm not saying it necessarily what we'd want to, but because of the extreme circumstances of the last 24 months and the pressures that all these players have experienced over that period of time, perhaps there would have been something more drastic that could have been done. We could have had the Lions maybe hanging around for a little while just so we could actually overlap and then send a few guys home. I don't know. Maybe we could have done that. But yeah, overall...
I think we could have done that, mate. And India, play more A-grade cricket. I'm calling it A-grade. I don't even know if that's what it's called. But they play a lot of India A cricket around the world and get their next crop of players or guys that are in and out playing cricket at the next level of highest quality they can do against teams all around the world. Whereas we go to Australia and we play one Lions game. That's an absolute waste of airfares and hotel bills. We've got to look at it. Not just, I represented the Lions. We've got to look at it as a pathway. You play county cricket. You're good enough at county cricket. You can come and play Lions cricket, and you're going to go and play 3 test matches in India because that's where we are. You're going to play 3 test matches in New Zealand because that's where we are. And everyone will benefit from that. Even if they're not playing against New Zealand A, even if they're playing against Auckland, they're playing in Auckland. Even if they're playing against Gujarat, they're playing in Gujarat. So play against that domestic team and give guys more options in their, they've got a bag of tools when they go into test match cricket. What have you got? Well, I've got this tool. I've got this tool. Well, actually, if we do this and we have a pathway, and this is just talking at the kind of elite level, well, actually, I had an India A tour and I played there. I played franchise cricket in Sri Lanka. So I played some T20 cricket there. I did a Lions tour over in Australia. And underneath that, guys that are identified in this system, and they've got to be identified early. What are you doing this winter? Who's in charge of that conversation of head of youth development for English cricket and goes, hey, Mr. 17-year-old, we think you're going to be good enough to play for England one day, or we think you're highly touted. What's your plans? What are you doing fitness-wise? Do you want to go to Australia this winter and play? We can hook you up with the club because we've got contacts. Take ownership of your whole structure and your players underneath it.
There's a lot of sentiment.
It's got their own individual drive to go and do it.
Yeah, everything you said there is spot on, mate. And there's so much sense in it as well. And it just frustrates that it doesn't seem like England place the same emphasis on it. It shouldn't be county to test match necessarily, should it? It should be county to Lions to test match. Yep. That should be the stepping stone process. Clearly, county to test match just isn't working. We're going to be looking for the next opener soon, aren't we? Let's take the example of a Jake Libby. He's probably about 28, 29 now. How much Lions has he played? I don't know is my absolute answer, but I don't think it's a hell of a lot. It certainly wasn't when he was at Notts. Ben Slater, who was at Notts, another opener, somebody in the background maybe, who's got some talent, a bit of a late developer as well, a bit like Jake Libby. Have we identified him in any way that's getting him into the right situations and getting the right experiences? Because going from breaking in, establish yourself into county quite late to then suddenly jump in a test match, you're not going to have had all these really positive experiences because you weren't a big enough name to get the exposure in order to get the Big Bash contract or the IPL contract to get that experience through franchise. So there has to be a way where we're utilising under-19s, Lions, etc., doing the tours. And what more sense could there be than when England are touring a country, a Lions tour also is going on at the same time? You don't need to have fans and great stadiums and all the rest of it. You just need to be on good cricket pitches against good opposition, first-class opposition, representative opposition. We've got 3 test matches in West Indies coming up. Are we taking a Lions tour out there? Why
Probably
not if we're not? Yeah, why not if we're not? If Saki Mahmood, for example, is not in this next squad for the next test squad, why not? And if he's not, why can't he be somewhere getting experience at the same time? These are the players that should be the future of England in a not too distant future. There's some batsmen in there as well. We need batsmen ready to go very soon because we're gonna need them.
We're going to run out. It's just ownership of your game, England. Take ownership of your structure. We'll get onto the structure in a second. Take ownership of your player pathway. This is how you do it. You look at rugby, and New Zealand's got a very basic structure. You play club rugby, and then you might go on to play Mitre. It's called Mitre 10, or used to be called Mitre 10 rugby, which is like the provincial rugby. So I represent Auckland or North Harbour or Waikato. From there, the best players get picked to play for 6 franchises. Not saying England should have franchises, but the county level part of the game, there's the next step up, and the best players from that go on and play for the All Blacks. It's just this is the pathway to the top. And in English cricket, there's just a huge gap. Now, Jonathan Agnew has come forward and had some comments about this, Rich, and we won't spend forever on it, but it is worth talking about because it's
another day, definitely,
of English cricket. So, county cricket should be the lifeblood of our game. It's there to provide and drive the England Test team to be the best in the world, which it previously has been. And given the financial infrastructure and resources and player pools that we've actually got available to us, we should be able to provide high quality cricket, high quality players, and play at a world class level. Now, since 2015, when we had a debacle down in Australia and New Zealand with the Cricket World Cup, white ball's been the priority, and we've created the best white ball team that's probably, it's up there with the West Indies and maybe the Aussie team as well. It's the best white ball team around at the moment. Now, KP caused a bit of friction when he came out and said that franchise cricket should be a thing. If England want to get better, they need franchise cricket, less teams, drafts, overseas players coming in, create a real high quality level like you get in T20. And I think the world's a great place because everyone's allowed an opinion. And I think everyone is, I think we're naive if we don't put everything on the table to work out what the best outcome is. Jonathan Agnew has gone again on this. His has changed. His view, essentially, I'm going to paraphrase what's quite a long article on the BBC, is there's 800 teams in commission at the moment, and they play in the 100 competition. His viewpoint is that should be increased to 10 and have 10 city-based franchise teams that work off a draft process.
And is this, sorry, just to clarify, is this for to a 4-day cricket?
This is for 4-day cricket in England. It might not necessarily have the same players as the 100, but it could use the same system. It's very controversial, especially for someone from Agnew, who I'd probably say is more of a cricket traditionalist. I can't bookmark him with that, but I would say he's someone that probably holds some core heritage values to the game. What are your thoughts on KP? And what are your thoughts on Jonathan Agnew's approach?
Right. Right. I'm not going to take too long on this because I think we need to come back another day and dedicate a podcast as we start to look towards the summer. There's a lot of structure conversations to be had. First and foremost, you need 18 county chairmen, county boards to sign off any of these proposals. True. So you're going to basically need 8 of those to say we're going to consign ourselves to history. We're going to become minor counties in effect. So it's not happening, in my opinion, at the moment. I've got no problem to a point with players coming or people coming out and suggesting different formats. But I don't think it's helpful. We became a brilliant white ball nation. That was from counties, wasn't it? The 100 only came up last year. So was that not from counties?
Correct. From the blast.
So why is suddenly everything that's wrong the county's fault?
Yeah.
Everything at fault is a county fault. So what about the fact that we don't prepare well for test series? What about that we don't select players for the right players? Let's work it back a little bit. What about the fact that we don't focus on Lions? What about the pathway? What about the fact that we seem to identify players and just stick militantly with these certain players as we go through? And this is what happens going into the county setup, let alone what's coming out of the county towards England. We forget other players left, right, and centre because we're so focused on certain individuals that don't always make it at the other end. There's so many other things. The franchise idea for me is not helpful. I don't think that's going to be the way to go. We're not going to rip up all these years and years of tradition and just go to a franchise system for all forms of cricket. If they want to do it for the 100, if they want to do it to a Big Bash version, a T20, do that franchise. I ain't got a problem with that. I'm not precious about Trent Rockets or becoming, or Notts Outlaws becoming Trent Rockets or whatever. But 4-day cricket, come on now. I just don't think it's helpful. And I think people are swinging to the extreme, aren't they, to try and find the right answer. If things are so bad, suddenly we're panicking, we're rushing a bit. And, God love Agger's the big pot show, but that's not for me. It's not a setup that I would think will improve. I mean, what benefit? I mean, if we got a system, I think you suggested it a few weeks ago, Rob, 3 divisions, 6 teams each. It's all about getting the best players to the top. It doesn't matter what those teams are called. So get the best players to the top. Notts have done a fantastic thing for county cricket this year. James Pattinson is coming back into county cricket, and he's coming in on an English passport. So we could hopefully get an overseas player with him as well. Yeah. That's the sort of bowler that English batsmen need to be facing week in, week out. It's attracting players of that standard to county cricket to make the standard better. It's getting the groundsmen to provide and getting the counties to agree that we need to produce pitches that are more conducive to having to knuckle down and play some serious 4-day to the daylight fading on the 4th day cricket, instead of these 3.5 day result pitches all the time. And the lack of quality players. It's great to see some of these county players till the late 30s. And Darren Stevens is an extreme because he's still contributing at the top level. But there is a lot of players in county cricket that aren't helping anybody, probably not even themselves. They probably could be cracking on with another career at some point. But we need to weed out a little bit and get that standard better. Now, how we do that, again, that's another massive conversation. But I don't see how franchise is going to be a silver bullet to solve all the problems. It's about getting the best players on the best surfaces playing against each other and bringing out the best of each other. And like the Australian system, they understand if I miss out here, I'm not going to bat again for a while.
Yeah,
that's why Sheffield Shield was always revered as such a great setup. That's the key for me. It's not about rebranding and all this nonsense. All that's going to do is bring in a load more money. The game's got enough money as it is. It doesn't need any more money. It needs to know what it's doing with the money and invest it properly into the counties and the county structure.
Yeah, the I can't remember the actual number, and it might be 1 or 2 off here, but it's about 1.3 billion TV deal they get for Test match cricket. So red ball cricket is worth a lot to the English game. So yeah, I like this. Three divisions, 10 games, 6 teams in each division, promotion, relegation. Games split across the summer, I still think is necessary. I think you need some at the start before you get into the start of the English Test match scene to give people warm-ups. But then the majority of them are during the middle period of the summer. Chris, I want to say it's Chris Harris from Leicester, made a really, really good point on this, going, it's all well and good having the cricket, but the groundsmen haven't got enough time to prepare the grounds. You need about 10 days. And again, these numbers, I'm not a groundsman. This is just what we're seeing online. You need about 10 days to create a real high quality first-class wicket. They get about 2 days. And the best wickets are put aside for white ball, TV games, and things like that. So there's the overarching stuff. But I think if you just look at red ball cricket, what makes it better? A couple of overseas players per team, increase the quality. And then essentially what you're doing is you've got 9 players, potentially English players from 6 teams playing at the highest quality cricket in the country. That's really good. There's meaningful games because if you had 2 up, 2 down, teams 3rd and 4th in the division are always playing for something. They're playing to try and win the league, or they're trying to avoid relegation. It just creates meaningful cricket, which I feel is really missed. It was missing during the 18-team era. After a while, this is 18 teams. Then it went to the 9 and 9 and the 10 and the 8. The 10 and the 8 still gets lost. The COVID era of county championship cricket, where it gave us the 6, 6 and 6 in the group stages, that provided just every game seemed to matter, and it needs to be more like that.
Yeah, it's a start, isn't it? I think that's the, if someone turned around and said, okay, we're going to have 6 franchise teams, well, that's basically what we're going to have. We're going to have the 6 teams are in there, and theoretically they should become the best teams over a period of time. There's more movement between counties now than there ever used to be. Traditionally, it would be that you just get stuck, and depending on who your young players were or who your overseas players were, that's the only difference. But it's not like that anymore. Players are moving left, right and centre. So theoretically, you should be able to move those players up to the top. And unfortunately, for some counties, that's just what's going to happen. But then it should give opportunity to younger players. They need to be incentivized to play the younger players. I don't want to see older players kicked to the curb just for the sake of it. If they hit 26 and they haven't quite made it, I don't want to see them gone. But there needs to be a bit of an incentive to get younger players in over, players that are 30, 32. I don't want to say 31 because Scott Boland's 31, and let's not overlook someone like Scott Boland. Because if England have got him somewhere, as someone pointed out to me, Luke Fletcher, maybe. Where's our Scott Boland? Maybe it's Luke Fletcher. Get him in. But there's got to be, I don't know, there's loads of ideas you could use. There's loads of things you could try and tweak. And everybody will have their opinions. I'm really looking forward to speaking to people in positions around county cricket. Some people we know it'd be good to speak to, and other people that are really dialed in. I'd love to know what their opinions are on this. I don't think anybody has got the full answer, and that's really important. We certainly haven't. And I don't think the people at Power, Tom Harrison and the ECB, have got the full answers at the moment, which is quite worrying because they're the ones paying themselves $2.5 million between them or whatever as a bonus. But we need a really grown-up conversation about this. And whilst it's good to have different ideas thrown in the mix, the likes of KP and Aggers are not helping the conversation, in my opinion. They're taking it off in a different direction, which is too distracting. KP was trying to point to how great county cricket was when he was playing. Was it amazing when he was hitting 355 against Leicestershire for Surrey? Was that a great standard of cricket, KP? No, it wasn't. He's just blowing smoke up where he always blows smoke up. He doesn't help any conversation, KP. My opinions of him. The best player I have seen at county level when he was coming through at Trent Bridge. I loved him for England for a number of years. But the shtick of KP wore thin with me over a number of years of him playing his own game all the time and never, ever accommodating the game situation or the team. And the way he's been off the field, I will never like the man, but I loved the player. Off the field, he just strikes me as one of those people that wants to get the attention. And he's going to throw out any ridiculous idea or whatever the opposite is of whatever Strauss and Cook might be saying, he'll be throwing out there to try and get his name chucked back in the middle of things. And I don't think it's helpful. But I'll go for your structure, Rob. I'll pay you a couple of million to
take my structure. I'll take that. I am going to say about KP, I feel when you've hit rock bottom where England are at, and I think about this at work as well, no option or no idea is a bad idea. Everything should be on the table, and the more people who think differently to you can create different conversations, and the outcome might not be what I said. The outcome might not be what KP said or Aggers said, but the more people that come up with ideas, something will be molded that won't work in the middle of it.
That's always the compromise is always the wrong decision. So it needs to be bold. It needs to be a little bit different. It needs to be out there. It needs to be brave. But I just don't think we're going to get anything of any benefit from franchise that we can't get from counties if we look at the structure correctly and all the other things we spoke about. The 100 for me is such a waste of time because no other cricket country in the world will adopt the 100 because IPL Big Bash is so successful. T20 is. We could have just rebranded and franchised the the Vitality Blast in England, and I think it would have been a fantastic success. And I think that would have been the way to do it. And it means we wouldn't have had this huge thing lumped in the middle of the summer that's getting in the way of the 4-day game. That's not to say that's not raising the standard, but it's raising the standard of white ball cricket in a format. That's not helping county cricket as a whole and 4-day cricket and test cricket. It's just the 100 is a massive issue, and I don't know how they overcome the issue. They're not going to get out of it because they've got at least another couple of years, haven't they? And they're being paid far too much money to even consider moving on from it. But it's a shocker. It really is when you consider everything else. In isolation, it might not be the worst thing that's ever been invented. But when you think of the impact it's having on that calendar in the summer and test cricket, it's a shocker.
Let us know what you guys think about
this.
I think that's really important. We're chewing the fat, kind of going, this is what we think might work. This is what we think good is going to look like. And we've taken that from a domestic structure, how we think the championship might work, player pathways to trying to become international cricketers and what the lines look like. Let us know what you guys think. Maybe you're in favour of Kevin Peterson and Jonathan Agnew's kind of view of the world. I can't see it working with the county structures and their votes being relevant unless there's a complete breakaway in the game. Rich, to finish the podcast, to finish the Ashes series. Now, I've asked on Twitter, I said, in one sentence, essentially, what is your feeling about the Ashes series? Paul has come out and he said an embarrassment to English cricket. Sam Gray's come out and said not surprising at all, will take a long time to put right. If you could, one sentence, finish the podcast and go, this is how I feel, this is what English cricket is, English performance. What does it look like to you? What's that sentence pieced together like?
That's a really tough one because I genuinely don't feel that bad about things at the moment. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel, do you know, sometimes when it gets that bad, this isn't my sentence, by the way, this is just a preamble before the sentence. You know, when things are that bad and you've hit the bottom, it almost feels like a weight's been lifted. It's like, how much worse can this setup get? You know, my American football team got kicked out of the playoffs last night. And again, I don't feel that bad. We've ended the season. We move on. You know, we can build again next year. And there's an optimism that comes from an end, isn't there? Whenever something ends, you start looking forward again. And I'm already in that position with England. It was that bad. I'd almost said my goodbyes to English cricket after the second test.
Yeah.
You know, the fifth test, it's long dead, that series. This England team, this England setup in its current form is long dead in my view. I don't know where we go at the moment. I'm looking forward to the test matches in West Indies. The T20s in West Indies coming up very, very soon would be a nice little distraction. It's a completely different setup. But I'm already looking forward to the test matches. Change, Rob. We need change. It's simple as that. If this is the opportunity, this is the time for change. And not little change, but big change in the county structure. ECB, is it fit for purpose? All that sort of stuff. So my sentence is, now is the time for change.
Mine is 2022. Is going to be England's year. Regards, Plonker.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to stuff already. I really am, and maybe I've just been a bit like down about one or two things, but a bit of T20 is going to be such a relief coming up soon. We're not watching this shambles of a test side, and then I want to see what the squad is. I know what's going to happen though. My optimism will stop as soon as I see the squad for the West Indies Test tour, and it'll be almost identical to this, apart from one or two players. Sibley will be back in. Burns will be still in the squad. So it'll be all Haseeb Hamid's fault for this result. Yeah. That's what I'm saying now.
Oh, I like it, mate. Well, good fun. Good 5 test matches if you're based in Australia and wearing an Australian shirt and saying cobber every 2 minutes. Fair play to you. You have thoroughly outplayed England throughout the series. We're a very far distant second, but there's been moments to give us optimism. And 2020, like we said, is a new year. And I'm optimistic to see where we go forward. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.